If you have been following our journey, you know that we have been keeping a close watch on the object known as 3i Atlas ever since it first showed up in our corner of the universe back in July. For months we have tracked its path as it raced toward our sun. We have carefully examined its strange and unpredictable behaviour. We have been asking the tough, uncomfortable questions that many other outlets seem to avoid. And now, 6 months after it first appeared on our screens, something just feels different. Something feels off. This is not going to be just another routine update on its progress. This update might be the most important one we have ever delivered. Right at this very moment, as you are listening to these words, an object that came from a completely different star system is flying toward our planet, Earth, at a speed of more than 130,000 miles per hour. On the date of December 19th, 2025, this object, 3i Atlas, is scheduled to make its closest approach to Earth during its entire trip through our solar system. When that moment happens, it will be about 170 million miles away from us. To put that into technical terms that astronomers use, that distance is about 1.8 astronomical units. To give you a better sense of that scale, that is almost 2 times the distance between the Earth and the Sun. At the time of its closest pass, the object will actually be on the complete opposite side of the Sun from where we are, a position that makes it a little more difficult for us to get a clear view. NASA has officially stated that we are safe. The broader scientific community has reached a consensus that it is just a comet. But there is something that keeps us awake at night, something that nags at the back of our minds. This object has been acting in ways that have confused even the most experienced experts in the field. Its behaviour has made scientists scratch their heads and begin to question some of the fundamental assumptions they have held for years. Now, before we go any further, let us be completely and totally clear about one very critical point. There is absolutely no danger to us, none at all. NASA has been able to calculate the object's flight path with an incredible level of precision. They have done this by combining all the observations from powerful telescopes on the ground with data from various spacecraft positioned all across our solar system. This comet is not on a path to collide with us. It will not hit Earth. It will not even come anywhere remotely close to our planet. Anyone who tries to tell you that there is a danger is simply not looking at the real, hard data that has been collected. However, just because it poses no threat does not mean that its close approach is not a hugely important event for science. The date of December 19th just so happens to fall on the same day as a new moon. For astronomers, this is a perfect coincidence. A new moon means the sky will be exceptionally dark, creating the best possible conditions for viewing faint objects in space. Telescopes all over the world will be pointed at this visitor. The Hubble Space Telescope will be watching it closely. The James Webb Space Telescope has already scheduled dedicated time to observe it. Every major observatory on the planet will be working to collect every single piece of data they possibly can. This is our final and best opportunity to learn everything we can about this messenger from another star before it disappears from our view forever. After it flies past Earth, 3i Atlas will continue on its journey, heading out toward the giant planet Jupiter. It is expected to pass within 33 million miles of Jupiter on March 16th, 2026, and after that, it will be gone for good. It will travel back into the vast, unending darkness that exists between the stars. So with all of that in mind, let us ask you a question. It is a question that has been quietly haunting astronomers ever since this object was first spotted back in July. What if the universe just sent us a message that has travelled across the galaxy for billions of years? And what if we're simply too afraid to read what it says? To even begin to search for an answer to that question, you first have to understand just how incredibly rare and special this moment is when you consider the entire span of human history. In all the thousands of years that humans have been studying the stars, going all the way back to the ancient Babylonian stargazers who created the first maps of the night sky, we have only ever been able to confirm the existence of 3 objects that have entered our solar system from the cold, dark space between the stars. Only 3. That is out of the billions and billions of observations that have been made over thousands of years. The very first one was an object named Oumuamua, which was detected in 2017. It was a strange, long, cigar-shaped object that created a huge debate among scientists about whether it was a natural phenomenon or possibly something else. The second visitor was a comet named Borisov, which arrived in 2019. That one behaved much more like a typical comet, following the rules we expected. And now we have 3I Atlas, and this third visitor is different from the two that came before it in almost every single way we can measure. But there is one thing that makes this object fundamentally different from anything humanity has ever seen before. 3I Atlas is not just passing through our little cosmic neighbourhood. It is ancient, so old that it is almost beyond our ability to truly comprehend. According to a team of researchers at Oxford University, who have carefully analysed its path and its speed as it travels through our galaxy, this object is likely somewhere between 7 and 14 billion years old. Take a moment and let that number truly sink into your mind. Our entire solar system, which includes our Sun, the Earth and all the other planets, is only 4.6 billion years old. This means that this comet was already drifting silently through the empty void of interstellar space long before our Sun even began to shine. It existed before the Earth was even formed. It was a traveller in the dark before anything that we know and recognise had even started to come together from the ancient dust of the cosmos. It is coming from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, which is located near the very centre of our Milky Way galaxy, a place where stars are packed together in numbers that are almost impossible to imagine. The scientists who have studied its path believe that it most likely came from a region of the galaxy known as the thick disk. This is an area of space that is home to some of the most ancient stars in our entire galaxy. These are stars that might have already lived out their full lives, burned through all of their fuel, and collapsed into dead stellar remnants billions of years before our own Sun was even a swirling cloud of gas and dust. This object has travelled across distances that our minds can barely even begin to wrap themselves around. It has been a silent witness to the birth and the death of countless star systems during its incredibly long journey through the galaxy. It has managed to survive for ages and ages in the crushing, absolute loneliness of the space between stars, and now, after all that time, against odds that are truly astronomical, it has found its way to our solar system. It has arrived here, at our home, and it has arrived at the exact moment in cosmic history when we, as a species, have finally developed the technology that allows us to see it and to study it. Is that just a coincidence? Perhaps. But the universe seems to have a strange sense of timing when it comes to these things, does it not? The very moment that 3I Atlas was discovered, on July 1st, 2025, by the Atlas telescope system located in Rio Hurtado, Chile, the entire global scientific community went into a state of absolute overdrive. This was not just another interesting astronomical find to be written up in scientific journals. This was seen as a once-in-a-generation opportunity, a chance that many scientists knew might never come around again in their entire careers. NASA immediately mobilised every single resource they had available, and when we say everything, we truly mean every single space asset that they could possibly turn and point toward this new target. The Hubble Space Telescope was one of the first to act, immediately locking onto the incoming visitor and starting to capture highly detailed images. The James Webb Space Telescope, which is humanity's most powerful and most expensive eye on the universe, turned its incredible infrared sensors to focus on the object. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which circles the red planet, watched it as it flew past Mars from its high orbital position. The Perseverance rover, which is sitting on the surface of Mars, was able to take observations from a completely different point of view, millions of miles away from Earth. But the effort did not stop there. The Europa Clipper mission, the Lucy mission, the Psyche mission, and the Parker Solar Probe were all involved. In total, more than a dozen major space missions were either redirected, had their schedules adjusted, or were given new tasks to study this single object as it blazed its way through our solar system. Never before in the entire history of space exploration has humanity coordinated so many resources, so many billions of dollars worth of advanced technology, to observe a single cosmic visitor just passing by. The European Space Agency, or ESA, was not going to be left out of this historic moment. Their Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter spacecraft were able to capture images that were truly unprecedented when 3I Atlas passed within 18 million miles of the planet Mars on October 3rd. The information gathered from those observations from orbit around Mars actually helped scientists to refine the comet's flight path with 10 times more accuracy than they could have ever achieved using only the telescopes based here on Earth. Perhaps most exciting of all, the JUICE spacecraft, which is currently on its long journey to study the mysterious icy moons of Jupiter, managed to capture what might be the most revealing images we have so far. In early November, it passed within 41 million miles of the comet. The images it sent back showed a bright glowing cloud of gas and dust, known as a coma, surrounding the comet's solid core. They also gave us tantalizing hints of not just one, but two separate tails stretching out behind this ancient traveller. Here is the thing that gives us absolute chills every single time we think about this incredible scientific effort. The scientists involved knew from the very beginning that they had an extremely small window of opportunity to work with. 3i Atlas is moving at such an unbelievably high speed, reaching a peak of roughly 153,000 miles per hour as it swung around the Sun, that it will be completely gone from our sight before we know it. Once it leaves our solar system and heads back out into the interstellar void, we will never ever get to see it again. Not in 1,000 years, not in 1 million years, never. This was humanity's one and only chance to study a messenger that came to us from another star, and what they discovered during this unprecedented campaign of observation, well, that is where the story starts to get really interesting, and maybe even a little bit strange. Now, we want to be very clear and honest about something before we move on. NASA and the majority of the mainstream scientific community are firm in their position that 3i Atlas is a natural comet. They argue that it behaves like a comet. It looks like a comet when they observe it with their instruments. Therefore, it must be a comet. For them, the case is closed, and it is entirely possible that they are absolutely 100% correct in that conclusion. But real science is not about just accepting the easiest or the most comfortable answer and then moving on to the next problem. Real science is about asking the hard questions. It is about following the evidence wherever it might lead, even if it takes you to a place that makes you feel uncomfortable. And when it comes to 3i Atlas, there are serious, well-documented questions that simply do not have easy answers yet. First, let us talk about the mysterious jet that was pointing toward the Sun. When the Hubble Space Telescope captured its detailed images back in July, scientists found something that was genuinely strange. They saw a prominent jet of material that was shooting out from the comet, but it was pointing directly toward the Sun. This jet was a concentrated beam of material, about 10 times longer than it was wide, and it was aimed straight at our star. Now, under normal circumstances, the jets on a comet always point away from the Sun. This is a matter of basic physics, something we have seen happen with countless comets that belong to our own solar system. The heat from the Sun's radiation causes the ice on a comet's surface to turn directly into gas, a process that ejects gas and dust. This process naturally pushes the material in the opposite direction of the heat source. It is a fundamental principle of thermodynamics. But 3i Atlas was doing something completely different. It was firing a concentrated plume of material directly into the face of the Sun, which goes against all of our conventional expectations. Then, there is the chemical composition of the comet, which spectroscopic analysis has shown to be genuinely strange. Scientists who were using the Very Large Telescope discovered that 3i Atlas has an unusually high ratio of nickel to iron in the material it is emitting. Now, this specific ratio is something that is often found in certain types of industrial alloys that we humans create here on Earth. However, it is extremely rare to find this ratio in natural comets that come from our own solar system. On top of that, the researchers found that there was far more carbon dioxide than water in the gas that the comet was releasing. This discovery completely contradicts what we normally see in the comets from our solar system, where water ice is typically the dominant material that is released. The data on the polarization of its light is perhaps even stranger and more difficult for scientists to explain. The light that is reflected off of 3i Atlas shows what scientists are officially describing as exceptionally negative polarization. A measurement at this extreme level has never been seen before in any interstellar object. It is pushing the very limits of what our current theoretical models predict for natural cometary bodies. What does this measurement actually mean? To be honest, scientists are still debating it, and so far no one has been able to offer a definitive explanation. And here is one more statistical anomaly that really grabbed our attention. The path that 3i Atlas is taking through our solar system is aligned with the orbital plane of our planets to within just 5 degrees. All of the planets in our solar system orbit the Sun on roughly the same flat plane, which is called the ecliptic. This interstellar visitor came into our system on a path that was almost perfectly aligned with that plane. Statistically speaking, the probability of a random object from interstellar space entering our system with such a precise alignment is only about 0.2%. That is a 1 in 500 chance. It is not impossible by any means, but it is certainly something worth noting. When you start to stack all of these strange things together, one on top of the other, and when you look at the complete picture of everything that is unusual about this object, you cannot help but start to wonder, what exactly is this thing? No honest discussion about 3i Atlas would be complete if we did not mention Dr. Avi Loeb. He is perhaps the most controversial figure in the world of modern astronomy today. Dr. Loeb is an astrophysicist at Harvard University. He is the former chair of Harvard's very prestigious astronomy department. He's a scientist who has published hundreds of papers that have been reviewed by his peers throughout his long and distinguished career. He even collaborated directly with the legendary scientist Stephen Hawking on groundbreaking research. But he is also one of the most polarizing figures in his field. He's someone who has built a career on asking questions that make many of his colleagues feel deeply uncomfortable. Loeb first became known internationally for his controversial claims about the first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua. He suggested that it could potentially be a piece of alien technology rather than just a natural object. Many scientists dismissed his ideas as sensationalism, but Loeb continued to stand by his arguments, and now he has turned his full analytical focus onto 3i Atlas. In a number of high-profile interviews, including appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and on Fox News Sunday, Loeb has argued with great passion that we absolutely should not dismiss the possibility that 3i Atlas could be artificial in its origin. He has put together a long list of more than a dozen separate anomalies related to the object. He argues that while any single one of these anomalies could potentially be explained by natural processes, the sheer combination and accumulation of so many unusual features is statistically significant enough that it deserves a serious investigation. He has even brought up the ancient story of the Trojan horse from Greek mythology, suggesting that just because something looks innocent and familiar on the outside does not necessarily mean that it is what it appears to be. Are his ideas bold? Absolutely. Are they sensational? Probably. But here is the thing you have to remember about Loeb. He is not some random commentator on the internet. He's a serious scientist who holds a strong belief that the scientific community has become too conservative in its thinking. Of course, the scientific establishment has pushed back firmly against the suggestions made by Loeb. An astronomer named Jason Wright from Penn State University has systematically gone through and addressed each one of the anomalies that Loeb has pointed out. Wright argues that all of them can be adequately explained by known natural physical processes. Wright has called 3i Atlas a highly weird comet to be sure, but a comet nevertheless. So, who is ultimately right in this debate? That is the beautiful thing about genuine science. We get to keep asking questions until the evidence itself provides us with a clear answer. Once 3i Atlas had passed safely by our planet, its long journey was far from complete. The comet continued on its path, which was taking it out through the far reaches of our solar system. Its movement remained fast and graceful, a constant reminder that it did not belong to our Sun. It was a traveller from a distant star, moving forward under its own incredible momentum and being influenced only slightly by the planets it happened to pass. Scientists quickly shifted their focus to the next major event that was coming up on the comet's itinerary. The giant planet Jupiter was waiting. Their predictions showed that in early 2026, 3i Atlas would make a close approach to Jupiter, coming within tens of millions of kilometers. This might sound like a huge distance, but Jupiter is the giant of our solar system. Its gravitational pull is immense, and it has the power to bend the paths of smaller objects that pass nearby. Even a distant encounter with this gas giant could change the comet's path in a significant way. Researchers watch this development very closely, because this encounter could determine whether the comet would leave our solar system on its current path or if it would be nudged in a slightly new direction. The potential influence of Jupiter also held a great deal of scientific interest for another reason. By studying how objects from interstellar space react to the massive gravity of a planet, scientists can learn important information about their mass and their composition. By carefully observing any small changes in the comet's speed or direction, they could learn more about the internal structure of 3I Atlas. Every small movement was important. Each tiny adjustment to its path told a story about the forces that were at work in a part of our solar system that humans rarely get a chance to measure directly. In the meantime, telescopes on and around Earth continued to track the comet as it flew away from us. The images they collected showed that its activity level remained high. Gas and dust still swirled around its nucleus, forming a bright and constantly changing coma. The structures of its tails continued to shift and change, most likely under the influence of the solar, wind and the pressure of radiation from the sun. These ongoing observations reinforced the idea that 3I Atlas was not just a simple, inactive visitor. Beyond all the complex calculations and the streams of data, the comet's approach to Jupiter captured the imagination of the public. This was a visitor from another star system that was about to move past the largest planet in our own solar system. The scene it created was almost like something out of a movie. While most people could not see it with their own eyes, just the knowledge that something from a distant star was weaving its way past the planets in our own cosmic neighbourhood created a sense of awe and excitement. It served as a powerful reminder to people that the universe was an active, dynamic place, and that it was far larger than anyone could ever fully imagine. But even as astronomers looked forward to the Jupiter encounter, a deeper puzzle still remained. Certain details about the motion of 3I Atlas, about its brightness, and about the strange structures in its coma still did not quite match what they expected to see. Scientists began to discuss different possibilities. Some wondered if there might be hidden forces at play, or if its unusual composition or some unknown internal process might be at work. The story of the comet had only grown more mysterious, and it seemed that every new observation raised more questions than it answered. Its journey toward Jupiter was just one more chapter in a much deeper cosmic mystery that was still waiting to unfold. Let's take a step back from all the speculation and talk about what 3I Atlas has actually taught us through hard scientific observation. The James Webb Space Telescope was able to detect carbon dioxide, water, carbon monoxide, and carbonyl sulfide in the comet's coma. This specific chemical makeup strongly suggests that 3I Atlas originally formed very, very far away from its parent star, in the extremely cold outer regions where these volatile compounds could remain frozen for billions and billions of years. It is, in essence, a pristine time capsule from an entirely different solar system. The JUICE spacecraft captured detailed images that showed two distinct tails: a plasma tail, which is made of electrically charged gas that points directly away from the sun, and a fainter dust tail which is made of solid particles. This confirms that 3I Atlas is actively shedding material, behaving exactly as a proper comet should. Most importantly, the arrival of 3I Atlas proves that interstellar objects are not nearly as rare as scientists once believed. We have now seen 3 of them in just 8 years. With the new Vera Rubin Observatory coming online soon, scientists are predicting that we might find 50 or even more of these objects during its 10-year survey of the sky. We are entering a brand new era of interstellar astronomy, and 3I Atlas is the object that is leading the way. Whether 3I Atlas is a natural comet or something else entirely, its very existence forces us to face a profound truth. We are not isolated in the universe. Material from other star systems can and does reach us. The very building blocks of everything we know, including organic compounds, water, and complex chemistry, all of it can travel between the stars across distances that are almost impossible to imagine. Let us bring this conversation back to where we started. Is 3I Atlas dangerous? No. The science on this is perfectly clear. It poses zero threat to Earth. Is it a natural object? Almost certainly. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that this is a comet that came from another star system. But is it important? Absolutely. This ancient wanderer is carrying secrets from the earliest ages of our galaxy. It represents a physical connection to worlds that we will never be able to visit. For a very brief moment in cosmic time, a piece of another solar system is passing through our own. And yes, there are still anomalies. There are strange behaviours that do not quite fit our existing models. Maybe they do not mean anything at all, or maybe they are hints of something new, something that we do not yet understand. That is the true beauty of science. We do not need to have all the answers today. We get to keep looking. We get to keep questioning. 3i Atlas is now leaving us. After December 19th, it will begin its long journey out of our solar system, and it will never return. In a matter of months, it will fade from the view of even our most powerful telescopes. Eventually, it will become nothing more than data stored on computers and the memories of a time when the universe sent us a visitor from the stars. What do you think about 3i Atlas and its incredible journey through our solar system? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation about this mysterious interstellar visitor.